There's a particular state of mind that comes from holding the memory of two different worlds, one that's basically vanished and one that's still being born. Today, we're going to explore the unique psychological landscape of a generation that exists right in that space between, a generation caught in a truly historic shift of consciousness. Just let that question sit with you for a moment. Can you remember a time when you could leave the house and simply disappear? You were just unreachable. An entire generation has this vivid physical memory of that state of being, but now they live in a world of constant digital presence. And that transition, it wasn't just about technology. It was profoundly psychological. So this microgeneration, people have started calling them Xennials. But this is way more than just a convenient label. See, this unique position in history has shaped a really distinct psychological profile, one that doesn't quite fit the Gen X cynical mold or the digital native experience of millennials. Theirs is a different kind of story, and it's one worth looking at a little more closely. At its core, the Xennial psyche was, in a very real sense, forged twice. Now, this goes way deeper than just nostalgia. It's about having your identity shaped by two fundamentally opposing realities, and all during the most formative years of self-discovery. So first, let's talk about that analog childhood. This was a world where boredom was just a state you inhabited, It wasn't some inconvenience to be swiped away instantly. It was a world where connection required real, deliberate, and sometimes pretty inconvenient effort. Just think about the psychological patterns these kinds of experiences create. When you had to wait a whole week for your favorite TV show, you were cultivating patience. When conversations just weren't recorded or archived, you really learned the art of being present. And when you made plans, you were making a commitment that was rooted in this different kind of trust, one that couldn't just be dissolved with a last-minute text message. And then, it felt like it happened almost overnight. Everything changed. This wasn't some gradual evolution. The digital world arrived like a tidal wave, just as this generation was starting to figure out who they were as adults. And this timeline, it just shows what a rapid-fire succession of world-changing technologies this was. You go from the simple freedom of a basic cell phone to the complicated social world of Facebook, and then to the constant, never-off connectivity of the iPhone. All of this was introduced and had to be integrated in just a few short years. Every profound change casts a shadow. Those are the unacknowledged, unintegrated impacts that shape us in ways we don't always see. So let's explore some of the unseen consequences of this massive technological and cultural shift. The really crucial point here is the timing. Our brain's capacity for adaptation is most flexible up to around age 25. While Xennials were in this unique developmental window, they were young enough to integrate this new digital world almost seamlessly, but they were also old enough to have a fully formed memory of the world that came before. And what this created was a fundamentally different relationship with one's own past. Before social media, your history was much more fluid. It lived in stories, in hazy recollections, not in some permanent, searchable digital archive. And this really points to a key psychological process. Our memory of our own lives, it's meant to be fluid. We edit, we reframe, and we forget things. That's part of how we grow. But when every single awkward phase is documented forever, that natural process gets disrupted. The past becomes less of a living story and more of a fixed, unchangeable object. Okay, now let's layer a second profound disruption on top of all that technological vertigo: economic trauma. Just as this generation was stepping into adulthood, ready to build their careers and find some stability, the entire global economy collapsed. And this isn't just about a tough job market. Experiencing that level of instability during such a critical life stage, it can embed this lasting undercurrent of anxiety. It creates this quiet, persistent question in the back of your mind about security and risk, even years after things have gotten better. So what emerges when you combine all of these experiences? You get a psyche that is uniquely skilled at holding contradictions. It's a mind that can comfortably embody the traits of two seemingly opposite worldviews. So, on one hand, you've got the Gen X influence, this deep-seated self-reliance, which you learned when you had to figure things out on your own. But on the other hand, there's that early millennial influence, a collaborative spirit that was forged in the optimistic dawn of the internet. It creates this paradox: skeptical yet optimistic, independent yet deeply connected. So you see, this in-between state, It isn't a deficit. It's actually a unique and valuable perspective. It's the perspective of a bridge, one that has a foothold in two different lands and understands both of them intimately. Because they remember both sides so well, Xennials are really uniquely positioned to see the trade-offs of the digital revolution with total clarity. They can appreciate the incredible gains, all the connection, the information, without being naive about what was lost. That deep focus, the quiet solitude, the patience that's born from having no other choice but to wait. And this right here, reveals the core psychological lesson of the Xennial experience. It's so much more than a generational quirk. It is a lived lesson in adaptation. It is the practice of navigating profound change without losing the core of who you are. This question really lies at the heart of the Xennial experience. And, maybe it holds a key for all of us as we try to navigate a world of constant, accelerating change. Perhaps its value is as a form of psychological ballast, a reference point that gives us perspective, depth, and that crucial understanding that the way things are now is not the only way they have ever been or the only way they ever will be. It's a quiet reminder that we can and we will adapt again. If this exploration of the in-between resonated with you, I invite you to subscribe. Your support is what makes these explorations possible. Thank you for your time.